Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a great morning, great afternoon, great day. Maybe even it's into your dinner time. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to be with you. I have two fantastic guests with me that are going to explain why IBM Kubecost 3.0 is our biggest release ever. They're going to show you and talk about a lot of the great new features and enhancements that we've brought to Kubecost with this latest massive release, and how you can use it to do a better job of bringing FinOps to Kubernetes. With that, we'll go ahead and get rolling in. Today's agenda is pretty straightforward. I'm going to introduce your speakers. We're going to provide an overview of IBM Kubecost 3.0, our biggest release yet. It is now GA and available for everybody to use. We're going to go through features and demos that are new to Kubecost with this 3.0 release, provide you with some resources that you can take home and leverage, and then answer any questions that you might have. A couple of things up front here. You can download from the console here a PDF of these presentation materials. We will also be sending those out in an email, and this session is being recorded. A recording will be made available and in your inbox roughly on Monday when you guys get back from a great weekend, hopefully. Finally, we'll wrap things up and talk a little bit about how you can get your hands on Kubecost 3.0 and start using it today. My first speaker is Kai Wambecker. He's product manager at IBM Kubecost, works on Kubecost solutions across the board, monitoring, managing, and optimizing Kubernetes spend at scale. He's got lots of experience in delivering solutions for technical orgs, including cutting-edge Kubernetes tools, automated end-to-end machine learning models. If you'd like to connect with Kai, click that link there when you download the PDF of this and reach out to him. He'd love to connect. My second speaker is Cliff Colvin. Cliff's the director of engineering at IBM Kubecost and leads high-impact teams that are building amazing things at the intersection of Kubernetes, FinOps, and AI. Engineering platform innovations that scale up to 100x, improve security, reduce defects, and focus on conscious leadership and purposeful execution. Cliff builds systems that help teams thrive and deliver lasting value. Love to use. Also connect with Cliff using the LinkedIn link that's in the deck here. A little bit about IBM Kubecost for some of you that might be new. We've been around since 2019. We started as an open source project called OpenCost. We provide real-time cost visibility and insights to DevOps teams and platform engineering teams that are working with Kubernetes every day in meaningful ways. We help them continuously reduce and understand their cloud costs. Kubecost can run on any Kubernetes environment that might be on-premise, air-gapped, Ollie Cloud, EKS, AKS, GKE, Red Hat OpenShift container platform as well. Really, anywhere you're running Kubernetes workloads, you can run Kubecost to help you understand who's using what, what's costing money, and then optimize that. We're managing more than $5 billion in spend across our customer base. And we have global teams that are there to help you wherever you are in the world. And we are lucky to have some of the best companies in the world as customers of ours and partners such as GitLab, Coinbase, EA, Johnson & Johnson, Audi, and many, many others. With that, really excited to talk about why Kubecost 3.0 is the biggest release in Kubecost history. Much of this we've been working on for upwards of a year. We're really excited to get it into your hands. I'm going to turn it over to Kai now that can talk about what's in this and how it's going to help you. Take it away, Kai.
Thanks, Joe, and nice to virtually meet everyone here. IBM 3.0, there's a few key kind of tenets or areas that we've made big investments. So, number one, this is a brand new, almost bottom-up revamp of the Kubecost architecture, and it's delivered massive performance and scalability achievements, really allowing us to scale to the largest Kubernetes environments in the world and still deliver a really performant, easy-to-use experience. So not only that, and we'll touch on this throughout the deck, but because we have this new, more scalable architecture, it's unlocked a lot of other kind of innovation, more granular insights that we're able to provide. Really, even though architecture, changes might not sound sexy, and at times they can even sound scary, I think this lays the foundation for a lot of innovation that we're going to start to deliver, both in this 3.0.0 release, but in the next coming months and years. Another big foundational change, again, that we've made and we'll dig into here is optimization. So we have totally redone our container right sizing, and now we have powerful new automated container sizing to really just make it easy to start to save money and make your Kubernetes environments more efficient. We're really starting to go beyond just cost monitoring and just optimization insights and into easy to use automation and more powerful optimization insights. Of course, there's also been a big focus in 3.0 on simplifying the product. So you'll notice a lot of aspects of this product that we'll talk about make it easier to install, manage, and maintain Kubecost. And given the self-hosted nature of our product, I think that's going to lead to an increased ease of use, but also more adoption of Kubecost throughout organizations. And then finally, we have a lot of UI UX enhancements, more advanced filters, more powerful alerts, revamped collections landing page, things we'll dig into. But again, just making it easier to leverage Kubecost throughout an organization. And with that, let's dive in and talk about some of these features in specifics. Cliff, you want to start with this architecture overhaul?
Yeah, thanks, Kai. This is like Kai said, architecture sometimes can be behind the scenes. You're not going to shine a flashlight on it, not the big sexy thing. But I think when we look at two things that what I hear customers talking about almost always is, reducing the total cost of ownership of the thing that's trying to help them save, on their cloud spend. And then the other piece is the continual ability to grow to those largest environments. And so the couple of key points that you'll see on this slide here is the memory graph in comparing 2.8 versus 3.0 with Unified Agent is pretty significant. And this all comes from removing Prometheus from the stack. That is another piece of what Kai mentioned, like simplification of the Helm chart. I think the overall Helm chart also saw somewhere around 30,000 lines of code removed, and just a massive simplification. So it's easier to deploy and maintain and all the other things too. But this agent is not just Prometheus-less. It's also the future vision for a single agent that is going to run your IBM FinOps story. So when we look at like how these future, hopefully near-term future announcements to come for like what the cloudability story is with Kubecost and some of these things, this is the foundational element of that. And so getting the data collected and brought into the tooling correctly is a huge win, and it's the first step on this journey of bringing these tools together. I think it says here 60% reduction. I think depending on your number of clusters that you're monitoring, this can be a massive reduction in total cost of ownership. So it's also just laser focused, right? Prometheus is a fantastic tool in the cloud native and open source world. And it's also just, very genericized. So this is our attempt at a laser focused purpose fit tool. And hopefully will be a lot more efficient and because of that, easier to maintain. The other big one here is we've moved away. I don't know that we actually announced previously in 2.0 taking our database to DuckDB, but we moved away from DuckDB and moved over to ClickHouse. With that, there are always some trade-offs, right? It's a little bit of like the very minimum install for like the smallest cluster probably sees a small increase in RAM, but then the bigger your scale gets, you will see a massively reduced required footprint to be able to maintain reasonable performance on API queries. The other big one is ingest time is massively reduced. So those types of performance requirements are huge. Again, speaking to like total cost of ownership of the tool, you'll see a little bit of initial burst because we do need to migrate that data from DuckDB over to ClickHouse. But then after that initial period, you should be able to hone in on some really reasonable requests and limits here. And ClickHouse will pay attention to those. That was one of the issues that we've had previously, is getting the in-memory database to adhere to some of these rules in your deployments was difficult. And then when you look at these high scale environments, I think the graph there, it's kind of hard to see. Like some of the endpoints we were seeing like 60 and 80 times, latency reduction for queries across massive data sets. And so honestly, this is like the potential scariest type of migration you could make, right? Is just these two things are like two databases changing. We took a lot of time and care. We wrote integration tests for every other piece of the application to be able to validate going from A to B here. So the feature burying the lead a little bit here is not just this massive TCO reduction and performance increase and all of this, but it's also like a major step towards like holistic automated testing around every endpoint, around the agent and all these other pieces. So I look to see a lot more, quality stability as we go. If you want to switch, Kai, we can.
Yeah, thanks. But I think this is great. I think it highlights, the significant reduction in total cost of ownership of Kubecost through the Prometheus removal. Also kind of hints at, our broader integration with the IBM FinOps suite, right? Where this new agent includes the emitter for cloudability and will include the emitters for Turbonomic as well in the not so distant future. And put together this new agent with our custom metric collectors and this new highly performant database has allowed us to do two key, really valuable things for our customers. Of course, total cost of ownership reduction is great, but now we can also get 10-minute data resolution if you're interested in it, right? We can now start to go from hourly resolution, which is the most granular in 2.x, to 10-minute resolution in 3.0, because again, we have new agents that can emit data like that, and we have a new performant aggregator that can, handle this kind of data. And the other thing you can do, really successfully in our tests is really increase retention, right? So if you want to do quarterly, yearly reports, again, you've always been able to do that, but now you're gonna be able to do that way faster, way easier in Kubecost because of these performance gains. So, just want to highlight a little, how this will impact your kind of day-to-day as a Kubecost user. But with that, let's dive into some of the super cool new features. Cliff, I'm sure you're super excited to talk about this one.
100%. Like the key to this to me was we really took the feedback that we learned through our 1.x attempts at this and 2.x and said, we combined that with some, kind of dog fooding, right? Like, eating our own product here and like using it in all of our internal environments to just really hone in on like what made this more difficult. And so like some keys here is multi-cluster aware. I think this is the most powerful piece of this. And then the UI enhancements here to just like bring everything together a little bit easier to use with this automated container request right sizing. We have these custom profiles, which I think we've had, some similar things through the product, but this allows you to actually save those custom profiles, as well as like suspend an action or even, what do you call it? Archive one, right? Like that's the recommendation. We'll get to that in a second. So the realized savings is the other huge call out here, because one of the things that I think a lot of teams have maybe some difficulty with what was 2.x and prior is it's easy to say, okay, we enabled this thing, and then exactly how much did it save us where and by which actions? And so giving like some flags in the time series data to be able to point back and correlate a reduction in price back to a change you actually made is going to be available here with this enhancement. And then our future investments in automation here are going to be able to do the same thing. To me, I think it enables teams to like really understand the value they get out of the tool, sell that, up to management and all that, but also just helping hold some accountability to say, like, look, if we made a change and it didn't do what we wanted to do, then like we should go consider like what we act on next, right? And so I think for all the teams that are using our tool here, it's just as much art as it is science sometimes. And it's just finding the right combination of stuff. And then we hope that, realize savings as well as this like multi-cluster aware actions are going to give you that. And a couple other notes that I want to point out: secure cluster to cluster messaging. So when you upgrade, you will have to come and get the updated license for this. So like you're still licensed. It's just we want to give you an updated one. We'll actually allow all of the secondaries that are acting on behalf of what you did in the tool to know that those messages came from the source and from no one else. And so that is a pretty cool thing to do from these cluster messaging. And the other thing is one of the things we identified during our dog fooding is that we've never had in Actions was the ability to kind of schedule the windows during which you could perform these actions. And so what you see on the screen here is the cron job scheduler. So I think some great enhancements to usability here in being able to save some money and enable some automation, but like we don't want to do that in the time period that like updating a request would cause an outage. So Kai, I don't know if you got other thoughts. I know you're gonna do some demo stuff here, but like this one's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I always like to show rather than tell. So with that, let me just go ahead and dive straight into a demo here. Share my screen. 1 second. All right, hopefully y'all can see my screen here. So this is Kubecost 3.0. If you come under savings and then actions, you now have this actions page. So let's dive in and create one of these request sizing actions. So we'll do one called Kai's example here. So you start by essentially saying, which requests, which workloads do I want to, automatically size? So you have a ton of flexibility here, right? You can select, maybe you want to specify one specific cluster for them, or maybe you want to specify a specific namespace on that cluster. I don't know, let's say FinOps, right? Or maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to just do custom label, right? I'm going to resize all the applications or all the workloads where app is, I don't know, Keycloak, right? So you have total customization over which workloads you're going to run the automation on. You're also getting kind of a little sneak preview here of some of the new updated filter work that we've done, where it's very easy to specify and or between filter groups or filter strings. So where you can very easily say, cluster is this, or cluster is this, and namespace is this. So you have a lot more flexibility and advanced controls over your filters. And of course, that's going to apply to your automation here. It's going to be very easy to specify, all right, here's exactly which workloads I want to target with this automation job. So then once you select the workloads, you're going to select the schedule, right? So you can select the schedule. You have a nice kind of grid experience. So this would be, kind of running at midnight every day. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I'm going to run it at midnight on the weekends, and then I don't know at 9 a.m. on the other days. Kind of just making up a schedule here, right? You have a really nice experience for just kind of selecting the schedule, and then you can say, all right, I'm going to run it only at this time or run everywhere except at these times. So you have a lot of flexibility there, and then it comes to specifying the profile. Right? So how should Kubecost generate the recommendations or the actual where to set those requests? So, you can set the look back window. Generally, we see teams looking at like 7 or 30 days. And then you can select the profile. So if this is a development environment that my filter is set to, maybe I select development. If it's production, maybe I select production. If I want to totally customize it, I can select custom. Give a custom profile name. So we'll call this Kai's dev example. So we'll make a dev example here. And then maybe, how do I want to generate my CPU recommendations, right? Do I want to look at max usage, a percentile of the max usage, percentile of average usage? For CPU, given, if I don't, have enough CPU resources for a given workload under the request, you just get throttling, right? It doesn't kill, for example. Maybe we'll use P95 of the request, or excuse me, of usage, and then we'll set the target utilization to 75%, essentially giving a 25% buffer on top of the 95th percentile of max CPU for each of the workloads. And maybe on RAM, I do want to use max, and instead of 65% target utilization, I'll do, 70. Again, that's going to give a 30% buffer on top of the max RAM usage for each container. And then I can click save and apply. And then that profile will be how we generate the recommendations for each of the workloads I have in the filter. For this example, maybe we'll just run it on this integration test. Oops, I didn't click apply. And it's as simple as that. You do, of course, have to install the cluster controller on these secondary clusters so that essentially grants Kubecost write access to the cluster so that we can actually make these changes. And then you can click create action, right? You've got a nice visualization of the schedule. You can see here it very clearly just specifies, look, it's going to run weekdays at 9 a.m. It's going to run weekends at 12 a.m. It shows the affected workloads and the status the next time it runs. And then, of course, your realized savings. Right now, we're showing realized savings over the last 7 days. You can expect us to invest much more there and give really nice visualizations for realized savings over time in the future. And then, of course, you can also see the audit log. So we can come in here and see, I had this Kai's test job running last night. I can come in here and see all the changes that my automation has made. So I can see, okay, this job, ran on, this specific container and this namespace in this cluster. It had this starting CPU. It actually increased CPU and decreased RAM for that container. Again, just trying to make your Kubernetes environments more efficient. And again, taking all of this, constraints around setting your container request out of your hands and, putting it in very easy to use automation. So with that, we've got a few other features to cover. I will stop sharing, come back to the slide deck and highlight some of the others. Cliff?
Yeah, one of the questions that was coming in live was asking about, would this be usable with CI/CD like Argo? Today, it is not like natively built in for this. But I do want to say, first of all, we take these webinars as a great source of feedback and try to do our learnings and direct where we go from here. And I'll also say that on all of these features that we're talking about today, these are the first steps, right? This is new journey in 3.0. The foundation is laid. Now we get to start really enhancing and building based off of what we see that teams need. So
100%. And just building on that, Cliff, quickly, we definitely have customers that take the data out of our APIs and kind of take that data, bring it to their Argo CD script, and then punch in the numbers essentially from those Kubecost APIs dynamically to kind of leverage our recommendations that way. So definitely an option we've seen the users take as well.
Yeah, I just know, Kai, you and I are I don't want to steal thunder of maybe a future webinar where we talk about future state of things, but one of the common questions is how do we continue to shift left, right? So definitely forefront of our minds, right? And we love hearing these feedback and what your use cases are. So jumping into node group sizing. So this is funny, when I talked about the architecture changes, leave it to an engineer to forget half the value we provide, right? And so, Kai said, we've got this new, more granular data, and the node group right sizing, it was two of the big highlights from the architecture changes is the 10-minute data that Kai mentioned, and then actual quantile support through some of these new queries. And so I would just say ground up rewrite of this feature, right? This was not a like, oh, we tweaked a little bit here. This was all new. And it's a new algorithm and everything else. And so I think we've got a real stab at being more and more useful in this particular use case. And so the former cluster node right sizing is really now based on the node group itself. It's GPU aware, which is huge. The understanding of the recommendation I think is huge. This is like the highlight of the 10-minute data pipeline. Now, this is, as always, we try to make these things optional, right? Like if you start to see that with your scales cluster or something that doing 10-minute data is just a little heavy, or it's going to cost a little more to host or whatever, then you want to do, you can always turn 10-minute data off. We can do it with hourly. But like to get the great granular graph that you see in this screenshot attached, and hopefully you'll start to see some of this in the demo as well. It comes from that like very granular resolution of data. The quantile support, so ability to come in here and put that P95 or P99 in the original recommendation here is huge. And then the savings cost calculations are going to be done on reconciled data. Another huge shift, I guess, from like the 2.0 days, which makes it, in my opinion, a very exciting, like I said, first step view into like where we're going. This hopefully will allow you as a team to find, some simple changes you can make in your footprint, to see and identify those over provisioned clusters, and then I would guess as we start to release more and more visibility into the roadmap that like we'll see some investments in this, like I said, first step of many in our automation journey. But I don't want to keep talking about it because I want you guys to see it. So Kai, if you want to jump into the demo.
Let's do it. Share screen. All right, hopefully you guys are now seeing my screen. This is, just to back out here, this is our new right-size node groups savings card. This replaced our former node right-size clusters card. We're now doing things at the node group level based on a ton of user feedback that this is going to be much more actionable and easy to take advantage of these recommendations, versus them being kind of generated at the cluster level. So high level, we're generating two types of recommendations: scale in or scale out, which is essentially increase or decrease the number of nodes in the given node group, or switch type, essentially a recommendation to switch from one node group type to another. So you're seeing this page a little bit here. You come in and you can select a cluster. By default, we're looking at the primary cluster, KC integration test, and you're able to see over time its max usage, average usage.
Kai,
Yep.
Sorry, just a quick note. I think you might not be sharing the screen. Hate to make you start over there.
No, let me try this again. Boy, sorry about that, everyone.
Not a problem.
How's this? Share now, Joe?
I haven't seen it change on my screen yet here.
Okay, it says it's sharing. Let me try one more thing. Let me try to share the entire screen here. Any luck now? It says it's sharing screen.
If anybody from the audience can see Kai's screen, go ahead and pop maybe just a note into the Q&A section, but it looks like we might be experiencing some technical difficulties with the presentation platform. There, looks like we can see it now.
Okay, you can see it now. All right, wow. Sorry about that, everyone. Just to refresh here, again, you come to this page, you've got a cluster selected, and you can see capacity of that cluster against max and average usage for each of your resource dimensions. So here we're looking at RAM, and I can flip this to CPU, and you can see how my CPU, its max usage here is pretty bursty, right? So you can see this CPU usage and ensure you've got capacity here. And then, of course, maybe a logical next question is, do I have a cost-efficient allocation of resources? So you can actually see here for this specific node group, we can drill in and see its recommendations here. So it's basically recommending switching from 3 N4 high mems to 4 C4D high mems, and that's going to result in a cost savings of about $3,000 a month. And this kind of visualization makes it really easy to kind of vet this recommendation. So you can see, okay, look, it's actually going to increase current capacity from this red line to this green line on RAM. What's it going to do to CPU? Okay, look, it's actually going to increase, and that's actually going to account for some of these CPU spikes I can see here, right? That CPU usage actually bursted above capacity. And you actually have total controls over how, again, we're generating the recommendations. So we can come into the profile control once again. There's some pre-built development, production, high availability. But we can also come in and customize this. We can look at usage or request here. I'm going to stick with usage. That's generally what I see users doing. And again, we can look at P95, 85, max or average usage and set target utilization. Maybe for CPU, again, I'm okay being a little bit aggressive. Let's say P85, 80% target utilization. RAM, maybe I'll say, let's do max. Or maybe even P95 and 80% target utilization. GPU we don't have on this cluster, but of course you can do that as well. You can also specify a minimum node count. Some teams, for example, want at least 2 or 3 nodes at minimum to ensure there is, replica sets and ensure, stability and high availability applications. So you can click apply, and that will refresh, of course, our recommendations. As a user, I would expect, a change to the recommendations here. You can actually see not a huge change just based on the profile controls. We're still, recommending this, but actually on the other node group, you'll notice this went from negative savings, essentially, recommending increased capacity to some estimated savings here. You can see this new recommendation suggests a slight decrease in RAM, and it looks like that's okay to implement based on this visualization. And you can see here what we're recommending for CPU as well. So really just trying to give you confidence on some recommendations for more cost-efficient node group configurations, and these visualizations I think help give you a lot of confidence to go ahead and implement them. The way these node groups are defined is also, I think, a little bit interesting. So we look for the default node group labels for each of the kind of 3 major cloud providers. You also have the ability in the Helm chart to specify your own label definition of node groups. And if we can't find any label definition of node groups, I think I have an example of it in here. Let me just test. Yes, this is a good example. If we can't find any node group labels, either again from the default labels or from the Helm define labels, we fall back to using instance type, region to define the node groups and make recommendations on those. So like Cliff mentioned, this has been a total revamp of this page. And we really expect users to be able to now go beyond just the container monitoring optimization and really start to optimize their node groups and start to drive more efficiency and savings there. So with that, I will stop sharing, kick it back to Cliff, the PowerPoint.
Thanks, Kai. So along with that one, when you look at the container request right sizing insights piece of it, like you're saving recommendations, I would say a lot of this page is still the same. But under the hood here, there's a lot of new functionality that we think is going to help drive this story to like enable those automations that we put it at the multi-cluster aware stuff in the first feature that we talked about today. And so with this, we've got some new usage visualization that Kyle showed here in just a little bit. To me, again, this just highlights the power of the scale work we've done to be able to get more data in here and then give better visualizations for understanding, what your needs are before you go apply, any of these recommendations. I think that would be the biggest piece of feedback that I've heard since I've been here on this journey with all of the teams using Kubecost is, how do we know this is the right thing, and just trying to show that more granular data, trying to show that graph in a better way to be able to visualize what's going to happen, kind of show the work, if you will. And so you'll see some new enhancements to that. A lot of customizations here, similar to node group sizing, and you can save the profiles here. And this is actually tied in with the automations. I think Kai already showed those profiles there. And then you can also save this page, your query and filter and everything as a report, so that it's more easily accessible, and you come back to it quickly or share that out with others. And then we got asked by a lot of folks to be able to export this as a CSV or a PDF, so that you could go look at all of these pieces in a different way. The other thing is, I think I mentioned this earlier, like the ability to archive an item here that we have a recommendation on. Let's say that there's a stateful set that you're never going to be able to right size. You just know it's anomalous for whatever reason, and it's not something we're going to go touch. You can archive it so that it doesn't show here anymore. And I'll let Kai jump in with any other items I might be not thinking of, and then some show and tell here.
All right, well, let me do my best to try and get this screen to share. How we doing? Did that work?
Sure.
Worked great on the first try.
Oh, wow. There we go. Amazing. So yeah, diving in, like Chip mentioned, or Cliff mentioned, sorry, I keep mixing up those names. This is one of our most kind of popular savings insights cards. Again, this is the kind of insight version of the automation we showed earlier. And a lot of teams, they don't want to take advantage of the automation. They would prefer a more hands-on approach. And look, we especially in things like production. And look, we encourage that as well. So we've added a lot to this page to make it easier to use. So like Cliff mentioned, we have the new archive ability. So for example, maybe I just know, hey, this aggregator pod, I know I'm not going to be able to resize it. We've reviewed it with the team, and they're not able to size this. So I don't want this factoring into my estimated savings available. I don't want this factoring into the report I'm going to send to my teams. I'm going to archive this. So I can select it, click the archive button, bam, it disappears. And then of course, if you want to unarchive it, you can come to the archive portion here, click unarchive, and it will reappear in the list. Coming back here though, so let's say maybe I want to save a report here. Maybe Cliff's team has a bunch of right sizing opportunities. So I'm going to filter to app is, let's see, pick an example here, demo app 1. All right, I'm going to click apply. Oh, I don't have any containers in that. That's a bad example here, but let me just maybe pick a more simple example where cluster is integration test. Apply. Maybe this is all the workloads. Maybe this whole cluster applies to Cliff's team. I'm going to filter to that, and then I have the ability to save this report. So I'm going to call this Cliff's team, savings report. And so now I have the ability to save this report. And so that Cliff's team, when they come into Kubecost, can just come here and see all the right sizing of insights for just his team from that reports page. So really making it easier to access all of this information for Cliff's team. And now because it's a report, we can also schedule it to appear on a daily, weekly, or monthly cadence as a PDF or CSV in Cliff's inbox. So I can do Cliff cliff@ibm.com. I don't know that that's your real email, Cliff, but I can have it appear in a daily cadence in his inbox. Some of the other things, oops, wrong insight here, that Cliff highlighted. Of course, now you can also download this as a CSV. One of the requests we got a lot of times was, hey, I want this label to appear in the CSV so that we know which team or business unit it's associated with. So you can do that now. You can have the app label, for example, appear in the CSV. So when you click download, you can see the label keys for app on each of the rows in the CSV. We've gotten a few requests for that. Just makes it easier for teams to take the CSV version of our data and then disseminate this information to their organization. So some pretty cool requests that I think make this page a lot easier to use and share with the rest of their organization. And I think a lot of these controls, so the report saving, the archiving, et cetera, will be brought to the rest of our savings insights over time. Again, we see 3.0 as like a new foundation. And I think you can see the direction we're heading on this foundation in a lot of ways. Coming back to the slides here. Cliff, you want to close us out with some of these other enhancements that we did?
Yeah, I think these are the easy, like, small things that might not get a lot of attention sometimes, but to me they were all major quality of life things. And I was just really excited when Kai and I started talking about the vision for 3.0. This was actually I think some of the first stuff we actually started talking about. We didn't really have some of these other big launches that we wanted to go down in the forefront. We talked a lot about quality and polish. And so I know Kai mentioned the advanced filters a little bit previously, but the ability to make complex queries through and or statements in your filters. I think it's a huge, combined with, I think in 2.0 is when we released the autocomplete in that list so that you could just filter down to specific things. I think it makes the tool so much more usable. The collections landing page, I think there's some huge updates here, as well as shared collections. So if you want to start to make some more complex collection usage, I think to me this is a huge win in 3.0 for users. And then this is labeled as alerts, but I'm going to call it alerts and multi-cluster diagnostics. So it's retooling the health alerts, but with the new agent, you're going to see a ton of new data on your multi-cluster diagnostics page, which is going to tell you what's going on in all your secondary installs and where some things might be causing problems. So half the questions we get are just odd configurations that resulted in something not coming through correctly from the agent, and this is our attempt to try to help give some insights to that for all your clusters in one place. And then the alert piece of this is going to allow you to receive that as an alert when something something happens. So if you go install this on 100 clusters and your one of your agents starts to see a problem, you're going to know about it. Just because it stops reporting health. And then the bug report, we add the cluster controller, network cost, and the cloud integration and agent logs from 24 hours to 6 hours. Capture time is reduced from 24 hours to 6 hours, and just a lot more details here to assist in finding weird things that are going on, seeing the health of the application and so forth. So all of these are just an effort to improve quality of life, make it easier to support, maintain, and all of these other things too, both for us as a team partnering with you to understand what's going on, as well as how you maintain this thing. If you're installing it self-hosted, a lot of these things are going to be massive wins for that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Cliff. I do think that, maybe I'll try and share screen just really quick. I wasn't going to do a demo here, but just really quick, if screen share cooperates, I'd love to show this. Hopefully it's showing.
It is.
But
yep.
You can see we have all this new set of diagnostics because we have a new agent, and it is massively more powerful than our previous set of diagnostics. You can see, green checks essentially confirming that each of the metrics that Kubecost has to provide you accurate costs are coming through. And you can also see we now have a heartbeat. So we are constantly checking to ensure we are able to connect and hear from the agent, both for the metrics collection. Here you can see that on the FinOps agent side, and for the cluster controller piece. So if you're running automation, you need to be confident and constantly ensure that the cluster controller is up and running so that it's properly executing the automation you've configured. And we have a heartbeat check now on that cluster controller. So if you were to deploy the automation, and if we were to experience any issues with the cluster controller, you would be automatically kind of alerted to any hey, look, we stopped hearing the heartbeat from the cluster controller, go investigate, because of course now the automation may not be running. So I think, again, this is just going to make our users a lot more confident in their using Kubecost and the data that they see, and now with the automation that they use. So Joe,
Thanks,
do you
Kai.
want to wrap us up with these resources?
Yeah, let's take this home. What a great presentation. Lots of exciting things in Kubecost 3.0, right? Really, to kind of sum it up, it's smarter, it's faster, it's easier to use. It helps you save more from your spend without having to throw either more of your own cycles at it or other skilled, talented people who are often overworked. So can't wait for you to get your hands on it. A couple of resource links here. We've got documentation linked in the presentation. Feel free to take a stroll through that and then ask us any questions that you might have. We've got a launch announcement for Kubecost 3.0 that's linked here. We are going to be at KubeCon North America in just a short couple of weeks. We hope lots of you will too, and that you'll stop by and say hi. We also have an offsite event that we're doing just walking distance from the convention center that we'd love to meet you at and give you some yummy snack food and maybe get you a drink. With that, join Kubecost's awesome and supportive community. There's a link to join the Slack community here, and watch all of our Kube chats, the ones we've already recorded. This one, thank you for attending, and our future ones that happen bi-weekly. With that, we're going to jump into some Q&A. There is a Q&A button on your panel. If you've got a question, please submit it. I'm going to go through the two kind of lingering live questions that we've got here before going through some that were pre-submitted. So the first question from Perry is it possible, or are there any plans to use the AI capabilities of ClickHouse DB to allow for interactive querying of the data at some point in the future?
Yeah, great question. Definitely now that we're integrated with ClickHouse, there's a lot of functionality that provides that we want to kind of play with a little bit more. So for instance, like ClickHouse Cloud, some of the AI capabilities as well. So yes, that is in our plan to explore more. We don't have any concrete or specific plans right now. If you have thoughts on interesting ways that we could leverage the ClickHouse AI capabilities to help optimize your queries or storage, please hit me up, either my email or like Joe mentioned, I'll be at KubeCon. I'd love to grab a drink and discuss more, Perry.
Awesome.
Cool.
Daniel had
join our
question.
Slack. I was going to say join our Slack too. Throw these things in there because that's where we love to take the feedback from.
Totally.
Indeed. So Daniel had a kind of a lingering question about whether you can use some of, and I assume it was the automated optimization features that we showed with Argo or with Flux or some other, drift correction, drift control tools. Yeah. Just wanted to drill into that to clear that up.
Yeah, it's a great question. And to be frank, it's one we get a lot, right? And so let me just give some context here. Yes, you can use this automation even if you're running Argo, right? So what will happen though is if you have requests defined in your Argo or Flux CD pipeline, then Argo or whatever will overwrite what then Kubecost has set to be that more efficient request. So if you are setting requests in Argo, then the best way to integrate Kubecost container sizing recommendations is to kind of take the data from the Kubecost APIs that set those recommendations and pipe those recommendations into your Argo CD scripts. We are definitely, I will say, exploring, let's say, deeper integrations with them. But at this time, I'm not aware of a solution that will kind of overwrite your Argo CD, for you. I think that can be risky in a lot of ways. So again, eager to hear more if you have specific ideas. But again, we do have customers that take the data and then put it into Argo as the kind of new definition for what that request should be.
Yeah. And this is really applicable to teams that have the automated drift correction enabled within Argo or Flux, right? Is that if those GitOps tools don't know about those changes, it looks at it as drift and then would correct that. So as Kai mentioned, integrate using the API so that Argo or Flux do know about those changes, and then it doesn't look like drift. And again, it doesn't apply if you don't have the automated correction enabled. You'll get alerts, I'm sure, about drift being detected, but hope that answers your question. The one last live question that we've got is, how does Kubecost different or in some ways similar to Turbonomic? I'm going to let Kai and or Cliff dive into this one, but at its high level, right, it's typically different teams, DevOps and platform engineering teams working with Kubernetes specifically, use Kubecost for cost visibility, for cost optimization, for governance and monitoring, where it's typically the performance side of network operations and SREs that are working with Turbonomic, and really working on application performance and performance at scale and optimization. But cost really isn't a metric that you get in Turbonomic out of the box. We do have an integration with Turbonomic that brings cost into Turbonomic, into the UI, into the solution, so that it's another important data point and dimension that you can start to consume alongside that performance data. Kai, if you wanted to add anything there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on all fronts, Joe. I think I think you'll see us coming together more and more with Turbo over time. And I think the kind of unified agents that we talked about earlier, maybe the kind of first step here. We already have some light integrations with Turbo, but look, like Turbo is going to be your best-in-class solution for really optimization, but also just performance management of your infrastructure, right? Like it is there to make sure your infrastructure is running efficiently and performantly. Kubecost, right, on the other hand, yes, we have some optimization, of course, but we are focused on cost, right? We are the best in class Kubernetes cost monitoring and kind of FinOps in general for Kubernetes, so everything from monitoring to optimization to governance. So I do think you'll see us coming closer and closer together and deepening our integrations over time. But I think today, if you want, kind of broad optimization and performance of your products, I think you're going to need a product like Turbo. I think if you want to then go even deeper into Kubernetes and do effective FinOps and optimization with Kubernetes, I think you're going to need Kubecost. So I think we have a strong kind of I think it's overused, but better together offering. And again, I think you'll see our products come together more and more over time.
Thanks, Kai. We've got some pre-submitted questions and about 4 minutes left, so we'll try and get through as many of those as we can. First, how to track the forecast from the day-to-day individual requests, not from product-driven. It could be hundreds of requests. We have lots of solutions that help simplify this very complex and broad problem. Collections is an example. It starts with good labeling and tagging health, but Kubecost has tools to be able to look at costs and usage that's incurred by almost any dimension that you can dream of, whether that's at a project level, a product level, individual teams, and just slice and dice it in just about any way that you want using combinations of filtering. Next question we have, I'm looking for a precise real-time cost and trend estimation, I assume tool, to connect it to monitoring tools and treat as production metrics. Either you guys have any responses to that one?
I think that's a specialty of ours. I think, we are, we in a lot of ways kind of created this real-time cost monitoring for Kubernetes. And, I would say, quite frankly, it's about 50-50 in terms of how many users, leverage our API for those insights, or leverage our UI for those insights. And I would say the other half of our users take our real-time APIs, wire it up to their own production dashboards or workflows or Argo CD pipelines, whatever it is, and leverage our insights and data that way. So that is our kind of bread and butter, I would say.
The next one I'm going to take is the product easy enough for me to manage cost optimization if I lack a complete understanding of containers? And boy, does this hit home for me. I am not an engineer. I've never played one on TV. I don't write code in Go. I would struggle to stand up a Kubernetes cluster because I'm I'm an evil marketing person deep down inside. I use Kubecost every day. It is absolutely accessible to any persona, any job title, any previous experience or lack thereof, for anybody that cares about becoming more cost effective, reducing costs, understanding the things that are driving costs. The reports are really easy to work with. Budgets are easy to set up. It's easy to configure alerts about when teams are spending too much. And Kubecost does an amazing job of surfacing all of these opportunities to save cost and become more efficient throughout the entirety of the product in really easy to use ways. So yes, big capital yes on that. Next one, please share some live cases where companies or projects have saved costs per year. I can give you a quick anecdote about a very successful AI company that we wrote a case study with. You should be able to find it by Googling, Kubecost saves AI company. They recognized $750,000 in savings within the first roughly 4 months of using Kubecost. That goes directly to their bottom line, makes them more profitable because the AI work that they were doing was their product and was their offering. So we've got lots more stories like that where teams have saved into the millions of dollars using Kubecost, and it becomes savings that are pretty quick to recognize. It's not something that you need to wait a year to be able to start getting the benefit of those savings. Why should I use Kubecost and not OpenCost? What are some of the key differences that would make me want to purchase Kubecost? Guys, I'm going to let you answer that in roughly the last 30 seconds or so we've got.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take this one. I would say number one, a lot of these fancy, savings insights and automation are limited to Kubecost and not available in OpenCost or open source product. I would also point to, OpenCost, is the real-time cost engine of Kubecost. Kubecost has another layer that we call reconciliation, whereby we actually look at your cloud bill. And so any discounts through EDP agreements, savings plans, RIs that you're taking advantage of, those are reflected in Kubecost. OpenCost, again, is going to be more of the real-time cost engine that pulls from the public pricing APIs. So I would say those are kind of the big key differences. Of course, I can point to a few more. Kubecost is like an enterprise product. It's got like a database in the back end, and so it will scale. OpenCost, right? Again, it is the engine of the car. If you want to build the car around it, look, we encourage that. We're big believers in open source. But look, if you want to drive a car off the lot, right? That's going to be Kubecost itself. So high level, that's what we generally frame as the differences.
It's a great way to put it. Thanks, Kai. And thank you, Cliff. Thanks to everyone in the audience.